So I got a tweet on X just a little while ago from a listener, Norma Head, at Norma. Norma Head. Thank you, Norma, for your tweet. She sent me a message last night that said, Jeff, I've never talked to her, I don't think, but she said, I'm out. I'm tired of hearing you talking about the assassination of the United Healthcare CEO. And I tweet back to her and said, sorry that you're unhappy about that, but that's certainly one of the lead stories going on across this country. And that's what I do. I give you a common sense opinion on current events. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff, sitting in for Chris Kroc. Chris is out on vacation. I'll be phoning in tonight and the rest of this week and the next couple weeks, just giving you common sense opinion. Chris will be back. He will be back on this station in this chair on January 2nd, the night after New Year's night. Just taking some time off. He hadn't gone anywhere. He's here. He's just on vacation, spending time with family. So I got the note from her, the tweet from Norma, and I shot back a tweet that said, hey, Norma, I'm smelling what you're cooking today. Thank you. It's my lead story tonight. And she replied with a big old thumbs up. So Norma, thank you for that. It's funny because I was on top of this. I just give you a common sense opinion on current events, and some things in life are very complicated and very difficult to talk about. Some things in life are very hard to frame. Some things that we deal with day in and day out, you struggle to explain it. This is kind of one of those stories, but I got a strong opinion on it. I'm talking about today, Donald Trump blasting bipartisan spending deal, demanding a streamlined bill. President-elect Trump said he opposes the bipartisan deal struck by congressional leaders today to avoid a partial government shutdown this weekend, insisting that lawmakers tear up the agreement and pass a narrower bill. So Trump, the Congress has gotten together, both sides of, Republicans and Democrats in the House, on a bipartisan bill that would be a temporary spending bill to get through March, because the one we have now expires in March. And Congress is about ready to adjourn for the final time because they go back to the districts, and we put in a whole new Congress with all the new elected folks coming up in 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 2 weeks. And so Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, has been working the last couple weeks for a stop-gap spending bill, but now he faces a backlash. He's worked with poor guy, Mike Johnson, the Speaker of the House. He's had to negotiate and work with his members, the Republicans, but he also has to go across the aisle and work with Democrats. Imagine that. Now, you know what? There once was a time in my life where that actually worked, where Republicans and Democrats could kind of get together and they'd hammer things out. But I don't know that I ever understood that, or that you did either. And I'm not so sure we get this either. So Trump's comments upended the efforts today to pass that stopgap spending bill to keep the government funded through mid-March, while also providing more than $100 billion in disaster and farm aid. Trump said Congress should craft a new deal that keeps the aid but leaves out other measures, and he wants it coupled with immediately raising the federal debt ceiling ahead of the deadline on the nation's borrowing limit looming next year. Now, I'm not a fan of that, but again, this is bigger than my pay grade. I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I don't have an economics degree. I'm just a regular guy. I'm just a guy that went to college. I grew up in the state of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio. I went to a public university called Ohio University. It's a MAC school, Mid-American Conference. My degree is in journalism. I wanted to get in the advertising business, so it's actually Bachelor of Science in Journalism with a specialty in advertising and marketing. I took Econ 101 in 102, just like you did, intro to econ, economics, micro econ and macro econ. Kind of understand a little bit of that, but I'm just not that smart. Now, a good golfing buddy friend of mine has a PhD in economics from the University of Michigan. He was an economic advisor to President Carter and President Reagan. He was my golfing partner the last 15, 18 years until he retired and moved to South Carolina, Kiawah Island. So he's there. And I did not reach out to him because these things are really hard to explain and to understand. And he and I could have a great conversation about what happened today and the stopgap spending bill and this whole process, where money's coming from and where money's going. But I know Dave well enough to know he would dumb it down for me, but it would take me a couple hours to really ask him a ton of questions to try to figure out how this works, what it's all about. And all I know is this: I'm just a regular guy. I could probably retire if I want, but I don't want to retire. That's a whole new conversation. Retirement sucks from everything I look at and see and people tell me about. I don't want my mind going to nothing, but I also don't have the mind concept to deal with what they are dealing with in Congress. But I know this. I wake up in the morning, and there are many mornings I make a PB&J, and I wrap it up in foil, and I take it to work with me in case I don't have time to run out of the office and grab lunch, so I can be a little more productive. I keep a bunch of snacks in the office, along with all my Diet Coke. I don't drink alcohol. Diet Coke's my poison. I sit there and keep a couple bottles of Diet Coke, and again, if I don't have time to get out, that's my go-to. And I know that I pack my lunch, A, to save money, B, to be nutritious, and C, to be productive. I know that what I make, my income, that I'm paying more money to taxes and crap that I've ever paid before. I'm taking home less money than I ever have, just like you are. I'm trying to save in a 401 and other things so someday when I do retire, there'll be a day I won't be able to work again, whatever that may be, that I can live comfortably. And I know that gets tougher. I know when I was in my 20s and 30s, the reality of working until I was 55, 60 and retiring was realistic. I know when I got my 30s and 40s, it was less realistic. I know when I got to my 50s, it was even less realistic. And now that I'm in my 60s, it's even less realistic. I'll be working longer than I dreamt of when I was young. And I'm trying to make ends meet like you are. And how these guys in Capitol Hill, how these guys in Washington figure that all out, I don't get it. I don't totally understand it. I just know this. I got to balance my checkbook, and they should too. I'm not a fan of increasing the debt, the national debt limit at all. I think we got to get that under control. And I think there's way too much pork spending, which I'll get to in about 3 minutes. Because I have more in this story, and I have some strong opinions, and then I want to open the phone lines and see what you think. I'm going to tell you what I think, because that's why you turn on the radio to see, what's this guy think? I'll tell you what I think in 3.5 minutes. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. We've all seen the movie where there's a burning building and there are people stuck in that building, and there are first responders outside of windows of that building, and they're holding a big old tarp, and they're screaming up to the people, "Hey, jump, we got you. We got you. Jump, we'll cover. We got you. We'll catch you. You'll be fine." And you know what happens. People jump out, and they tell them to land on their back, in essence, and their bottoms so that they don't hurt themselves, and the tarp breaks the fall, and they get them down. They do the next one. Well, that, in essence, is what happened today in Washington. That's the visual I'm going to give you. The people in the burning building were equivalent to Congress. the House of Representatives and the Senate, House actually, negotiating out a new stopgap spending bill. And the first responders at the bottom saying, hey, jump, we'll catch you, I got you, you won't get hurt, Donald Trump. And right as they jump, he dropped the tarp, let them fall on their head. Now, because they jumped out of the second floor, they didn't die. They're shaken, they're a little stung, they're a little injured, but they're surviving. So Trump today said he opposes this bipartisan deal that was struck by congressional leaders to avoid a partial government shutdown, and that would start as early as this weekend. He insisted that lawmakers tear up that agreement and pass a narrower bill. Trump's comments upended efforts to pass that stopgap spending bill. He leaned on Elon Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy, his two guys that are in charge of government oversight of cutting the budget and cutting spending and so on. But one of the things he wants, he said he wanted them to redo it and immediately raising the federal debt ceiling ahead of deadline on the nation's borrowing limiting coming up this next year. Now, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. I just know this. At some point in time, we got to quit kicking the can down the road. At some point in time, we got to get closer towards a balanced budget because I think I looked it up today. Somewhere just less than 10% of our federal budget goes to paying off debt. And I just know this. As a regular guy like you are, with a mortgage, going to work, making some money, paying my bills, and trying to save for the future, when you owe more money than you have, that's not a good thing. And you can't keep kicking that can down the road. Whether it be you and your personal wallet or the federal government, that doesn't work. At some point in time, you got to pay the piper. Now, the president-elect's statement came after many Republican lawmakers urged on by billionaire Trump ally Elon Musk. Elon piled on today, citing that its sprawling provisions unrelated to storms or funding current government operations was a problem. Trump's endorsement of the rebellion adds to the headaches facing House Speaker Mike Johnson. And this creates a real problem, too. Remember, Mike Johnson is running for a new term as Speaker of the House in just a couple weeks. So it's a 1-2 punch from Elon Musk's social media barrage and Trump's demand to kill the deal because it left lawmakers reeling with leaders and rank and file members unsure what the next steps are. Because remember, Republicans and Democrats over the last couple of weeks have been talking amongst themselves about a new stopgap spending budget that would last through March. And so they've been talking about it all along. I hope that Speaker Johnson has been keeping Trump, Vivek and Elon and those in charge are going to be in charge up to speed. I hope that Mike Johnson didn't all of a sudden never talk to him about it and then all of a sudden spring that on him today or yesterday. I hope there's been conversation along the way. I bet there has been. But this is what I think Trump does that helps him, but it hurts him. And that is that 11th hour surprise, rips the carpet out from under you, drops that tarp where you're supposed to jump into to land, and says, whoops, I'm changing the game on you. That's a negotiation tactic that Trump does. And part of what Trump is shock and awe. And that's an example of it. Now, Trump's endorsement of that rebellion adds to the headaches for House Speaker Mike Johnson, again, because he's going to be running for Speaker of the House in just a couple weeks. The proposed legislation agreed to by Johnson and other congressional leaders would keep the government funded through March 14th, which is what they need. And right now that budget runs out, I think it's Friday night. So if they don't get something done and agreed upon, there could be a federal government shutdown. I think there's an element of Trump that kind of wants that, kind of shock and awe, and say, screw y'all, and get his way. And you know what? If it's good for American workers, if it's good for American taxpayers, if it's good for American employees, if it's good for American business, if it's good for America, then so be it. I just think it's kind of crummy. It's a couple of days before Christmas and an interesting time leading into the time where we're changing out our Congress and Mike Johnson will be up for Speaker of the House again. And I just don't want to see them go through what they did the last couple of times where they couldn't agree on a speaker. It just made us look like idiots. So March 14th is the date that they had written this budget for through that date to fund the government. And their budget provides more than $100 billion in relief to disaster victims and farmers. It also contains many provisions related to health care, U.S. investment in China. I want you to remember that, U.S. investment in China. This new budget has money in there to reinvest in China. I'll come back to that. It also includes lawmaker pay raises, trade with Haiti, and flood insurance program, potential threats from drones. There's a topic of the day, drones. The result of both parties trying to attach as many of their priorities as possible to the must-pass measure before the 118th Congress adjourns for good. That's what this is all about. Now, to keep the government funded, the bill must pass both chambers of Congress and be signed into law by President Biden before Friday's midnight deadline. So they don't have a lot of time here. Now, Trump's remarks today, posted on X by Vice President-to-be J.D. Vance, stunned members of both parties who had worked for weeks to reach this deal. It was pretty significant. It was a sucker punch to the face. Lawmakers on both sides went, what? Because it caught them all off guard. I get at the bottom of the hour news with Mickey Briggs in the newsroom. That's in 2 minutes. And on the other side of that, I want to continue this conversation. And I'll tell you what the jaw-dropping remarks were today and what leaders said, what Trump said, what J.D. Vance said, what Elon Musk said, what Vivek is saying, that has both sides of the aisle going, whoa, what the heck? That's coming up after bottom of the hour news. That's in 2 minutes with Mickey Briggs. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. And for Chris Crock on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Big story today is that Congress, for the last couple of weeks, been negotiating a stopgap spending bill that keeps the government open until March 14th. Right now, it's set to potentially close down Friday night at midnight, just before Christmas. So they agreed on something, but right at the 11th and a half hour, Trump and Elon Musk sent out a tweet that said anybody to vote for that needs to be voted out of office in 2 years. And Trump agreed. Vivek Ramaswamy agreed. And so they're back at square one. Trump said, no, don't do that. Blew it up and said, no, won't vote for it. Although it's not his to vote for. It's Joe Biden's to vote for. But in essence, Trump's putting out that threat. You guys do this and you're going to have hell to pay. Boy, what a weird day it is in Washington. Here's what I know about that. I'm a regular guy. Westside Jeff is my name. I wish I could tell you that I sit here and I can explain this to you all in a very simple, easy fashion, but I can't. I don't get it any more than you get it. I could read about it for hours and go up and down the aisle and watch all kinds of stuff. You can't tell me where pork spending is. All I know is all my lifetime, especially in the last 20 years, I've seen pork spending that's just ludicrous. It's stupid. It's un-American. But everybody does it up on the Hill. They want to protect their turf, and nobody's willing to step up and say, I'm not going to do it. It's a weird situation. Trump opened the door of Congress, threw a grenade in, let it blow up, opened the door and said, who's still alive? But that's what Trump does. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. In for Chris Crock. You can weigh in. I'm across social media at Westside Jeff. So go to Facebook, go to X, go to Insta, type in Westside Jeff. You'll find me. Or pick up the phone and call me like Dave from Denison. That number is 800-288-9227, 800-288-WBAP. Dave, thanks for listening. You're on the Chris Crock Show, and my name's Jeff, Westside Jeff. Thanks for calling. What's your opinion on this tonight?
Well, I appreciate the forum. I am disappointed to hear how you have bought in and don't seem to care about what the president-elect, which so many of us voted for, what Elon Musk, what Vivek really think and have to say about this, well beyond the thing about just this is not what we do, and we've always done this, so let's just keep doing this, and let's not be concerned about any of these things. My question to you is, do you agree with the congressional pay raise of 40% that is part of this continuing resolution that none of us are supposed to question?
Let me ask, Dave, thank you for asking that. Let me ask you a question. Do you know what congressional members are paid right now?
Yes, I do.
How much?
About $174,000.
Correct.
Going up to $243,000.
Correct. When was the last time they had a raise?
My friend, we're not...
Hold on, Dave. When was the last time they had a raise?
Do you think that you're
Dave,
not answering my question?
can you answer the question for me? When was the last time when did it go up to 174? Can you answer that for me?
Within the last 5 years.
2009. In 2008, it was 169,000. In 2009, it went up to 174. Let me answer your question. Do I agree with giving them a raise? No. I do
40%.
not. I do not.
40%.
I don't care about $1, Dave.
Do you agree all the rest of the report that we just need to continue to do what we've always done? Don't rock the boat. Just let the Democrats have all the things that they want to have.
Nope.
So anybody,
Don't agree with that.
You don't want.
I'm agreeing with you, Dave. I'm agreeing with you.
I'm somebody who depends on government income, 100%.
What kind of income? Are you talking Social Security or what?
Social Security.
Sure.
And my veterans disability. That's all I have.
Dave, we're agreeing.
I know it's at risk. We're not.
You and I are agreeing, Dave.
We are not.
What are we agreeing on, Dave?
You're saying we should just let it go. We can't shut the government down at for any reason whatsoever.
No, I'm not.
And
I'm
Trump,
saying
these people are walking in and throwing a grenade in the room, which is ridiculous. This has been their position all along. Nobody wanted the pork, and that they pointed it out, and that Durbin says we deserve a 40% increase in pay.
You know what I say to Dick Durbin?
To us,
hey, Dave, you know what I say to Dick Durbin? If you want more money, then give up your seat and go to work in the private sector like you and me, Dave. Go to work carry lunch bucket to work. You know what? If you really want more money, then go make more money somewhere else. This position, Dave, it's no different than where you worked in your life and me in my life. This position pays X. If you want that position, then you go for it.
The legislature is cover-up that they will not be allowed to investigate members of Congress. They will not be allowed to investigate January 6th. And you agree with all of that?
No.
Yes, you do. Because you want it to go through.
No, I don't. You're not listening to me.
You don't want to shut the government down, period.
Here's what I'll tell you, Dave.
You're willing to accept this to make it not happen. That is,
Dave, every time the government is shut down, we've lost seats in the next election. That doesn't sit well with American people. That's biting off your nose and spite of your face. Although I'm not telling you we shouldn't do it.
Yes, you are. And you bought into the narrative. You are, bud. You've said we can't afford to do this because if we do, we're going to lose seats. And we just had an overwhelming win And all the people in D.C. want to do is give what the Democrats want to have, instead of having a spine and calling them on it, as the three folks you mentioned earlier, disparaging them for just wanting to crash D.C. and have no regard for America, just themselves. I don't know. But that is not how the majority of Americans see it, sir.
Dave, I appreciate you listening, and I appreciate you calling, and I love giving you a forum for that. So thank you for being a part of the show. To your point, and I will add to this on that, I think shutting down the government is a dangerous proposition. I'm not opposed to it. I just think it's got to be strategically done and without sacrificing our House of Representatives and Senate members, because we don't live in a dictatorship. We don't live in a kingdom. Donald Trump will be one of the branches of government. You also have the House and the Senate, and we need them, and we can't bury them, and we can't put them in positions that makes them vulnerable. And just so you know, Dave, the GOP majority in the House currently stands today at 219 Republicans, 211 Democrats. But in the wake of the November election, the Republicans will likely have 219 to 215 margin on the first day of new Congress. So they're going to pick up 4 seats in the Democrats. Listen, if they were all Republicans, I'm game for that. But the reality is that's not what our government is today, Dave. Our government, unfortunately, is designed so we're almost equal Republican Democrats. I wish it were 90% Republicans and we could bulldoze our way through, but that's not the case, and we can't do that. That's my opinion. I think it's a weird situation we're in today, and what makes it weirder is President Trump isn't the president yet. Joe Biden is. He hadn't weighed in yet. I don't think Sleepy Joe's been awake and even understands what's going on. This president needs to be removed. We need to get Trump in there as soon as possible. That's my opinion, Dave. I appreciate you listening. I appreciate you being part of the show. I love people who disagree with me, because that's what this is, a community conversation, and I'll give it to you. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. So today, Speaker Johnson unveiled a budget actually late last night, and it got blown up today. Elon Musk saying, don't like it. Trump reiterated the same thing. And Trump came out with a statement today. Actually, J.D. Vance did on behalf of Trump. It said we should pass a streamlined spending bill. The only way to do that is with a temporary funding bill without Democrat giveaways, combined with an increase in the debt ceiling. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. I'm not a big fan on increasing debt ceiling. We've done that for how many years now? At some point in time, we got to get that under control. There are times and conditions in which a debt ceiling makes sense. Listen, there are times I have to dip into, over the years, I've had to dip into my home equity loan, right? And you too. There are times you have to go borrow money to cover something. But we shouldn't do it. It shouldn't be a lifeline the rest of your life. Now, Trump's endorsement of the rebellion adds to the headaches for Speaker Mike Johnson. He's a Republican for Louisiana. He's the Speaker of the House because he's running for a new term as Speaker in the House in a few weeks. So to some degree, Trump has to cover for him, or if he doesn't like him, then he's doing the right thing and they have to come up with a new speaker. Although we look like idiots the last couple times around that happened. To keep the government funded, a bill must pass both chambers of Congress and be signed into law by President Biden before Friday's midnight deadline. Trump's remarks posted on X by Vance stunned the members of both parties who had worked for weeks to reach the deal. This didn't just happen in 24 hours. This happened over several weeks. Half a dozen senior Republicans who headed into Mike Johnson's office after the news broke said they hadn't seen the tweet or couldn't understand what it said. Many of them walked into Johnson's office and said, okay, what the hell's this about? So it created, again, you open the door, Trump opened the door, he threw a grenade in that shut the door. After it blew up, he opened the door and see who's alive. Because his Congress had no clue what he was doing. They weren't involved in that. Now, the stopgap bill that was released late last night is 1,547 pages. Elon Musk is set to run a cost-cutting effort under Trump, joined the pile on today, posting on X before early this morning and said this bill should not pass. He went on to say that anybody that votes for this outrageous spending bill deserves to be voted out of office in 2 years. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Democrat in New York, warned Republicans against backing out of the deal. He posted on X, House Republicans have been ordered to shut down the government. You break the bipartisan agreement, you own the consequences that follow. My name is Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. My experiences in watching the history of shutting down government, when it does, it sends a message to me and you, the consumer, that they don't care. Yeah, sometimes they get what they want, but in every time that's happened, the party in control lost seats the next election. Is that what you want to do? Not me. It's a negotiation. You have to deal. Unfortunately, we don't have a 90% ownership of Republicans in Congress. It's slim at its best. So they have to work together. They can't go in and bulldoze and say, we're going to get what we want and screw you. This is where the Republicans are going to have to use the national talking heads, the media, to sell their message. They have to get out on media across the nation to sell their message. I encourage all the Republicans across this state to reach out and get on this radio station to tell their story. I'd start with Chip Roy, who's one of the leadership guys in Congress. You got to get out and sell it. You got to go to the public and sell it. And they're at a disadvantage because the Democratic media has become the PR firm of the Democrats. So they have to work extra hard at that. Now, Trump's insistence on a debt ceiling increase took lawmakers by surprise. In the last fight over the debt ceiling, the cap was suspended through January 1st, 2025. That's another 2 weeks. But because of special measures the Treasury can take when it hits a deadline, and because of tax revenue coming in the spring, Congress wouldn't need to address the limit until later in the year anyways. So why Trump wants to do that now, I think is a little bit of a roadblock. Democrats said Republicans had never mentioned the debt ceiling in the stopgap talks. And my argument on this, my story here, my opinion on this, about that is this. If Democrats are right that Republicans never had mentioned the debt ceiling in the stopgap talks, and if Trump really wanted a debt ceiling to increase, then shame on our government leaders because they should have been on the same page. Unless this is an orchestrated plan. Trump could have been talking to Mike Johnson all along and saying, hey, here's what I want. And Johnson could have gotten to the troops and said, here's what the president wants. And work towards that in advance as opposed to doing this. This also could be showmanship. I'm not sure which it is. I'm not that smart. I'm not sitting in Washington. I haven't talked to congressional leaders. I don't know. All I know is I have to balance my budget. You should too. And the government should also. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. I'd love to hear your input on this story. Let's hit Trey from Duncanville. Trey, I got about a minute and a half for you. What do you got?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. Yes, I would like to know if Trump gets his way and the Republicans in the House go along with what he wants, then they're going to have to go through Chuck Schumer to finalize it. And I don't see Chuck Schumer giving the okay on this, so it's dead on arrival. And let's say supposedly Chuck Schumer went along with this, supposedly, then it has to go back to Biden. So what if he says no? I just wanted people thought about, the next 2 or 3 steps. Because it's not all on the House. They don't have the final say.
Trey, I appreciate your call, and that's exactly where I'm going with this. When Dave called in a moment ago, he was making an argument from the stance as if the Republicans can do whatever they want because they own the House, the Senate, and the presidency in a big-time way, and nobody can fight it, and that's not the case. You're spot on with that. You're spot on with that, and we can't overcome that. And they're going to have their agenda like we have ours. But it's a negotiation. Fortunately or unfortunately, that's the government we live in. That's what we set up. You can't just go in and say, we're going to do it my way or the highway. See you later. Goodbye. That's just not how it works. My name's Jeff. It's Westside Jeff. I want to continue this conversation because it's an important one. Big news today. It's coming into a Christmas holiday week. It's what I call that Friday afternoon news dump. If you want to suppress stories, you do it at times like this. I'll talk about that next also after top of the hour news.